You ever sit somewhere, minding your own business, and feel the whole world sizing you up like you're a stranger in your own skin? That's how it started for me. Lena Carter, sitting on a splintered bench in the middle of Willow Creek Park, in a town called Fairhaven Place, so polished it gleamed like a magazine cover, but with shadows that clung like damp rot. I'm a black woman, a copwell, a detective, technically scribbling notes in a beat-up journal, just doing my job, when the air around me turned sharp, like a knife you don't see coming. It was early, the kind of morning where the mist hangs low and the joggers haven't yet claimed the paths. I was in plainclothes jeans, a gray hoodie, nothing flashy, but in Fairhaven, a place where every lawn's trimmed like a military haircut. I might as well have been waving a neon sign. Across the park, a cluster of moms in yoga pants and perfect ponytails kept glancing my way, their whispers carrying like static. One of them, Evelyn Harper, the queen bee of the Fairhaven Homeowners Association, stood with her arms crossed, her pearls catching the weak sunlight, staring at me like I was a stain on her white picket fence. I caught snippets. Been here too long. What's she writing? You know what happened last month, and felt that old, familiar weight, the kind that says you're not welcome, no matter what your badge says. I wasn't there to make waves. I was following a lead, something about kids going missing in this town 3 in the last 6 months, all from families who didn't quite fit Fairhaven's cookie-cutter mold. My pen kept moving, jotting down names, dates, anything to piece together the puzzle, but every scratch of ink seemed to tighten the knot of eyes on me. Evelyn made a call, her voice low but deliberate, and I knew what was coming. In a place like Fairhaven, suspicion's a reflex, and for someone like me, it's a loaded gun. Sure enough, 2 squad cars rolled up, lights flashing lazy, like they already had me figured out. Officer Mike Brennan stepped out first, all swagger and squinting eyes, the kind of cop who thinks his badge is a crown. Behind him was Officer Sarah Tate, a rookie, her face tight with the kind of nerves that scream she's new to this game. Brennan sauntered over, boots crunching gravel, and leaned in close enough for me to smell his cheap cologne. "You lost, lady," he said, his voice dripping with that fake politeness that's just a threat in disguise. "This ain't the kind of place you just sit around in, taking notes." I kept my cool, looked him dead in the eye. "It's a public park, officer. I'm just sitting." He smirked, like I'd just confirmed every assumption he'd already made. Sarah shifted, clutching her notepad like a lifeline, and mumbled something about a call from concerned residents. "People get jumpy around here," she said, almost apologetic. "Especially after, you know, the kids." Brennan cut her off with a look, then turned back to me. "Name, address, and what you're doing here, now." I gave him the bare minimum. "Lena, I live in town. I'm writing," and watched his jaw tighten. He didn't like that I wasn't shrinking, wasn't begging to explain myself. He stepped closer, his shadow swallowing my notebook. "You know, we had a kid go missing last week. Folks think someone's watching the playground. You wouldn't know anything about that, would you?" His voice was low, meant to scare, but I've been black in America too long to flinch at a badge with an attitude. "Sounds like you're fishing, officer," I said, my tone flat but my heart pounding. "You got a warrant? Or is this just a vibe?" His smile turned ugly, and before I could blink, he was reaching for my bag. Sarah hesitated, her eyes flickering with doubt, but she didn't stop him. The moms by the swings edged closer, phones out, not recording, just watching, hungry for a show. Evelyn Harper stood tallest, her voice cutting through the morning chill. "Officer Brennan, this woman's been loitering for over an hour, staring at the kids. After what happened, we can't take chances." That was the match that lit the fuse. Brennan grabbed my arm, yanking me off the bench so hard my notebook hit the dirt. "Hands behind your back," he barked, twisting my wrist until I gasped. The concrete scraped my knees as he forced me down, right there in front of the whole damn neighborhood. My wallet slipped from my pocket, and out fell my badge, gold, blue, unmistakable. Sarah's eyes went wide. "Wait, she's a detective?" she stammered, but Brennan just laughed, cold and sharp, picking it up and tossing it into the dirt. "Fake IDs are cheap, sweetheart," he said, grinding it under his boot. "If you're a cop, I'm the damn mayor." I spit blood onto the sidewalk, my pride stinging worse than my face where his hand had clipped me. "You're making a mistake," I said, voice hoarse but steady. "You're arresting the wrong person." He leaned in, his breath hot with coffee and contempt. "I don't care who you are. In Fairhaven, you don't belong. The crowd murmured approval, Evelyn's pearls glinting like she'd just won a war. Sarah looked like she wanted to disappear, but she helped cuff me anyway, her hands shaking as they clicked the metal tight. The ride to the station was a silent kind of violence, the kind that festers in the space between words. Brennan drove, his knuckles white on the wheel, while Sarah stared out the window, her face pale. I sat in the back, cuffs biting my wrists, my mind racing. I wasn't just some random woman in a park. I was working a case, undercover, tracking leads on those missing kids. My department had notified Fairhaven's precinct days ago, or so I thought. When we got to the station, hidden behind a chain-link fence and out of sight of any cameras, Brennan yanked me out like I was cargo. "Walk, or I drag you," he growled. I shot back, low and lethal. "You can't break what you don't own." Inside, an older cop, Officer Daniels, looked up from his clipboard, his face doughy and tired. "What's this?" he asked, eyeing me like I was a stray dog. "Trespassing," Brennan lied, shoving me toward the wall. "Might be tied to the kid cases." I laughed, sharp and bitter, the sound echoing off the cinder blocks. "You want to try that again, Brennan? Or should I call internal affairs and let them hear it straight?" His face twisted, but I didn't stop. "I'm Detective Lena Carter, badge number 0823, Central Precinct. I was working covert on the missing kids case. My department called your desk 3 days ago. Check it." The room went still, like someone had sucked the air out. Sarah's mouth fell open, and Daniels blinked, his clipboard forgotten. I yanked my wrist free from Brennan's grip, pointing at him. "You saw my badge. You knew who I was. And you still dragged me through the dirt because it made you feel big." Brennan's bravado cracked, just for a second, but he doubled down. "You resisted," he spat. I stepped closer, my voice like ice. "I resisted humiliation. I resisted you turning me into another headline about a black woman who didn't know her place." Daniel stammered, Let's check the logs," but I already knew something was wrong. The way his eyes darted, the way Sarah shrank back, it wasn't just a mix-up. Someone had set me up. Later that night, alone in my apartment, the walls closing in like a trap, I called my captain, Marcus Lee. "What the hell happened, Marcus? Why didn't Fairhaven know I was out there?" His voice was heavy, like he was carrying the weight of the world. "Lena, there's no record of your assignment in their system. Someone scrubbed it. Come in tomorrow, and lock your doors tonight." A knock at my door made my heart stop. It was Officer Kim Tran, a cop I barely knew, her eyes sharp but nervous. She slipped inside, glancing over her shoulder like the shadows might bite. "Lena, you're in deep," she whispered. "Your assignment was erased by someone in dispatch. Word is, it's tied to Officer Paul Rita, guy you crossed last year over a harassment complaint. He's got friends in high places, and they wanted you out there alone, looking like trouble." My stomach twisted. So that's what this was, revenge, dressed up as protocol, a chance to make me the story instead of the truth. Kim handed me a crumpled note with names: dispatchers, admins, people who'd touched my file. "Be careful," she said, then vanished into the night. I stood there, the paper heavy in my hand, knowing I was alone in this, no cavalry coming. But those missing kids, Amir, Sophia, Malik, they weren't just names in a file. They were why I was here, why I'd taken the badge in the first place. I wasn't about to let Fairhaven's secrets stay buried. The next morning, I went to see Martha Evans, a white woman in her 50s who lived on the edge of Fairhaven, where the lawns weren't quite so perfect. She was a foster mom to a black kid named Caleb, and she'd been keeping her own records on the disappearances. Her porch light flickered as she let me in, her eyes scanning my bruises. "You're back," she said, her voice brittle. "You sure you're not one of them?" I held up my hands, palms open. "Martha, I get it. Trust is a risk in this town, especially for folks like us who don't fit the mold. But I'm here for Caleb, for the others. I need your help." She poured me coffee, her hands steady despite the fear in her eyes, and handed me a folder stuffed with clippings, maps, and notes. Every kid who vanished, it was during an HOA event, block parties, movie nights, when everyone's distracted and the cameras mysteriously go dark, she said. Caleb, all of 13, peeked out from the hallway, his eyes older than his years. "They watch me," he said quietly. "HOA security follows me home, but never the white kids." Martha's voice cracked. "They threatened to take my house, said I was unstable for asking questions. But I kept track. Those kids, Those workers, they didn't just leave. They were taken. I spread her map on the table, red X's marking every disappearance, every life erased from Fairhaven's perfect story. It wasn't just a pattern, it was a plan. That night, I slipped into the HOA office, a sterile fortress of plaques and lies. Martha waited outside, her car hidden in the shadows, her phone ready to call for help. I picked the lock on a file cabinet, my flashlight catching names I knew, kids, workers, all relocated through a shady adoption firm tied to Evelyn Harper's brother. The camera logs were worse. Every disappearance matched a gap in the footage, erased by an admin account labeled T. Walsh. Tom Walsh, HOA vice president, ex-cop, always conveniently absent when the kids went missing. The elevator hummed, and I killed my light, slipping behind a cabinet. Walsh walked in, his voice smooth as poison. "You're not as smart as you think, detective." He knew my name, my facade been waiting. "Hand over what you found," he said, stepping closer. I clutched the files, my heart hammering. "I've got enough to bury you and this whole HOA," I shot back. He laughed, cold and empty. "Those kids, they're better off. Fairhaven's no place for people who don't belong." He lunged, and we crashed into the desk, papers flying. I fought dirty knees, elbows, everything I'd learned surviving places like this. He was stronger, slamming me against the cabinet, my vision blurring as pain exploded in my ribs. But I pressed the panic button sewn into my sleeve, a silent call for help. Outside, Martha saw the patrol car coming and texted me 3 minutes. I held on, clawing at Walsh's face, refusing to let go of the truth. He hissed, "You should have stayed out of Fairhaven," but I spat back, "The truth doesn't care about your zip code." Martha burst in, swinging a fire extinguisher like a bat, screaming, "Get off her!" Walsh ducked, but it gave me the second I needed. I tackled him, cuffing him to the table, my badge in his face. "Federal agent," I said, my voice raw but unbroken. "You're under arrest for trafficking, conspiracy, and obstruction." His eyes widened. Eth hadn't known I was FBI, embedded to watch scum like him. Sirens screamed closer, and for the first time, I saw fear in his face. The courtroom was a different kind of battlefield, packed with faces angry, grieving, hopeful. Evelyn Harper sat there, her pearls dull now, her hands trembling as the prosecutor laid out the evidence. Bank records, forged adoptions, her signature on every dirty deal. Walsh turned on her, spilling everything for a lighter sentence. "She called the shots," he said, not looking at her. "Picked the families, the kids, the ones who didn't fit her vision of Fairhaven." Evelyn tried to play the victim, her voice shaking. "I just wanted to keep us safe." The prosecutor, a black woman with a stare like steel, tore her apart. "You sold kids for cash, called it community. You're no savior, a predator." The judge's gavel fell guilty on all counts. The crowd cheered, not for blood, but for the end of a lie. Outside, Fairhaven was changing. Martha's porch became a gathering place, where neighbors, once divided, shared stories and apologies. Caleb kicked a soccer ball with kids who'd never been allowed near him before. At a memorial in the park, we read the names of the lost Amir, Sophia, Malik, each one a promise to never forget. A little girl asked me, "Will they come back?" I knelt down, my heart breaking. "Some will, and we'll keep looking for the rest. I promise." The police department was gutted, 32 officers gone, including Brennan, who left in cuffs, his sneer replaced by something hollow. Sarah Tate got her badge back, her voice stronger now, leading workshops on bias and accountability. I took a seat on a new reform council, working with Captain Lee, Kim, and a team of recruits who looked like the city itself, black, white, Latino, Asian, all ready to rewrite what a badge means. At the first community festival, I watched kids run free, parents laugh without fear, and I felt Ethiop, fragile but real, like a seed breaking through concrete. Fairhaven's not perfect. Some folks still cling to the old ways, whispering about tradition, about how things were. But we're louder now, and we're not stopping. I'm heading to DC soon, advising on reform nationwide, but I'll never forget this town, these scars, this fight. It's not just about punishment, it's about building something better, something that lasts. So tell me, what's broken in your town? What would you change if you could? Drop it in the comments. Share your story, because every voice matters, and every city deserves a new dawn.